Back on your airwaves, coast to coast, like butter on toast. Marcus White, Connor McNeilis, the Puckleheads, with one of my favorite episodes of the year, Marcus, are preseason predictions here, going through the standings, the Stanley Cup, all that fun stuff, awards, which, as we know, are just money in the bank. Go right to with them. Marcus, you're coming off the IR here, a little under the weather lately. How you feeling?
I'm feeling a lot better. I was in the emergency room a couple weeks ago with a 103-degree fever, but I'm back. I'm okay. I'm feeling good, and I'm ready for hockey to start. It's kind of crazy.
God,
it feels like just yesterday I watched the Penguins win in a really underwhelming way in Game 6. You know, when Hornquist batted that puck in at the side of the net, you're just kind of like, oh, it's done. No more hockey. Okay,
let's wrap this thing up.
So yeah, I think we're going to be doing things a little differently today. We didn't get a chance to record yesterday on October 3rd, otherwise known as Mean Girls Day, because of course, in the movie, she asks Aaron Samuels what day it is. He asks her, and she says it was October 3rd. So in honor of missing that, we're going to be previewing the divisions here with analogies to the Plastics, the four main characters from Mean Girls. To have a little fun, do things a little differently. So, who do you want to start with, Connell? Which division, which plastic do we want to start with?
Well, before we get into plastics, Marcus, I have one thing to say, and
great call.
I think it's basically a national holiday, as if it wasn't, and that is the fact that Jaromir Jagr is back in the NHL.
I almost forgot. I noticed you growing out the flow in honor of him signing.
Come on, you got to go with Jagr. Good for Calgary, who I think has a nice little squad this year, outside of their goaltending situation, which we'll get into later.
And Tanner Glass.
And, oh, my God. Jaromir Jagr and Tanner Glass in the same team. Greg Ackerman texted me that yesterday, and I was like, well, I just bewildered. But good for Jagr getting that contract. I mean, it was overdue. I think it was just he pulled, the veteran move, I don't feel like going to training camp this year.
Yeah, I think that was a huge part of it.
I think it's I don't feel like doing this. I'm 44 years old or whatever. I just give me the puck. I'll play 15 minutes and run your second power play unit.
Apparently, he chose the Flames over the Blues. What do you make of that? Reportedly, the Blues were interested too, and he apparently spurned their advances for Calgary's. Interesting.
I think two things could probably come into that, Marcus. And I think Jagr is a smart guy.
Marty Brodeur.
What's that?
He hates Marty Brodeur.
I wasn't thinking that. But who doesn't hate Marty Brodeur? Let's be honest. Now, I think two things. One, I do think Calgary is certainly a very young roster and a really good blue line too. I think they're going to be a little bit more more offensively lethal than the Blues would be. And I also think he's probably not stupid. I think the Pacific is a much weaker division than the Central is. I think the grind could be there. Obviously, some Jagr McDavid matchups that could be kind of fun out there. So, I think a little more well-rounded of a roster there in Calgary, at least offensively, and on decent blue line. So, it should be an interesting time out there. Maybe Jagr is planning to make an investment to keep the Flames in Calgary.
Yeah, I wonder if they signed him as leverage in this. Oh, what a debacle!
That would be such a
Flames basically holding the city of Calgary hostage to get them to pay for an arena.
That would be such a shame.
If they left, it would be a shame. But as you know, Connell, I'm very staunchly against taxpayer-funded stadiums. I think Murray Edwards is the owner of the Flames. He's one of the richest men on the planet. I think he can afford to pay for the premier entertainment venue that they want the stadium to be. But Jagr's back. We're stoked. First time he's playing in Canada. Just the second time he's playing in the West.
Which is also a cool thing. I think Jagr's got to try to make his round. So he had to at least make one stop in Canada, which is cool.
Yeah. And, I think the Flames are – I like it. Real quick, how much does he play with Gaudreau this season?
I hope exclusively. I think that would be so much fun. Just because you just think – I can see Jagr in the corner just shielding off, and he just cycles the puck around the net. Gaudreau walks the defenseman and comes in front and scores. I think that could be a really fun combination. And like you said, you got to put Jagr as he had success with Barkov and Huberdeau down there in Florida, you got to put Yager with some young legs. I mean, clearly that is an issue. So I think Calgary has that up front, between Monahan and Gaudreau and all those guys. I think him and Gaudreau on opposite wings could be a lot of fun. Different dynamic with players. You have one small, speedy with sick hands, and one big and slow with sick hands. So I think I think that could be a lot of fun. I would like to see them. I hope that's a pairing to start the season. I think that could be a good time for Calgary.
It sounds like he's going to play. At least they intend to play him to start with Versteeg and what's his name on the third line. Let me pull up the Calgary Flames line combinations. But I agree with you. I'd love to see him play with Gaudreau. I think Yager's lack of speed is, I don't want to say overrated, but it was a consideration. Oh, he's too slow to play in the NHL. Sam Bennett and Versteeg.
I think he's smart with how he approaches the game, and he knows what he can't do. And he's so good with his body, and he's still a big guy, so he has long enough strides that it makes up for his maybe quick foot.
And he played with, like you said, he played with Huberdeau and Barkov, who aren't exactly, they're not exactly slow players. So I think he'll have no problem playing with Johnny Gaudreau. A couple other things to note: Nikolai Ehlers reportedly nearing or has signed a 7-year, $42 million extension. Yep. Feels like a pretty good price for him. Feels like value. I'm
very high, as we were talking before the show. I'm very high on Winnipeg, so I think they have a lethal offense up there. It's a good signing, and we're seeing more and more teams, Marcus, get away from these bridge deals and locking these guys up,
which is very good for the young players, including Jack Eichel, who signed an 8-year, $80 million deal yesterday. That feels like the market rate. I mean, I don't know if he feels like a $10 million player to me. If Leon Draisaitl is a $10 or so million player, then so is Jack Eichel. Apparently, he took less money so they could sign guys, which good for him. But that's
it's a small point.
Shouldn't be a prerequisite for guys. At any rate, though, it's so we got some contracts, but hockey starts tonight. We got 4 games. So we're gonna preview all 4 divisions, give our cup picks, our award picks. Let's start. Which division do you want to start with, Connell? Which member of the Plastics would you like to start with? We're aligning Mean Girls characters with.
I say we start. We'll kind of work our way up with how the rankings of the Plastics would work.
Okay, I like it.
So I think we start with maybe a forgettable character, but as we talked before the show, some fantastic lines.
Yes.
Our weather reporter girl herself, Karen Smith. And when I think of Karen Smith, I think maybe a little bit forgotten, a little bit irrelevant, and which I think is probably the weakest division in the NHL in all that aspects. We go with the Atlantic Division here, Marcus. So we'll start.
I would agree with the assessment. Largely, irrelevant. Kind of comes into her own late in the film, as she says more. She says she has ESPN. She can, detect the weather.
What a movie. I'm laughing at the scene. I haven't seen the movie in a long time, but
what a movie. So I think that kind of represents some of the star power at the top of the Atlantic Division.
Exactly. I think 2 legit teams, and then there's kind of everybody else.
Yeah, I think I think there's a third team in there that's legit too. As much as it pains me to say it, I think a lot of people are too low on a specific team in the Atlantic Division, which we'll get to. So yeah, let's get right into it. How do you see the division finishing out? Karen Smith of NHL divisions.
All right, so we got 8 teams here in the Atlantic. Obviously, 31 teams in the NHL this year. Vegas should be fun stuff there. So 8th spot, Marcus. I got a team who is the epitome of NHL success throughout my entire childhood. But they are now dumpster fire of bad contracts. I have the Detroit Red Wings and their Little Caesars Arena here. It's gonna be should be a letdown in the new place.
Yeah, that place kind of looks like a pizza oven when they have the red lights on at intermissions and stuff. It legitimately looks like the inside of a pizza oven, which I'm not sure if that's what they were going for.
I've never had Little Caesars pizza.
Yeah, neither have I. I think this is a bad team, man. I really didn't understand their off season. Go ahead.
That blue line is just
yeah. Trevor Daley might be their best defenseman, which is
I'm a Trevor Daley fan, but he could be like your 4th best defenseman at best. You're probably best off with him in your 3rd pairing. I'm a fan.
Yeah, I don't know why he signed there.
Makes no sense. Oh, man, and they have so many bad contracts. Like, they can't even shed anything this year. Like, I don't know. The one guy that could really move this year to make some dough or get some draft picks, which would be Mike Green, who would be a nice addition to some teams. You know, maybe they eat like a little bit of salary. But
yeah,
Zetterberg signed for 4 more years. Thomas Tatar, I mean, he's young enough. That's fine. But the Franz Nielsen deal looks atrocious right now. 5 more years at 5.25. The Abelkader contract, forget it. Darren Helm, who I'm a fan of, is overpaid and is already 30. It was too long of a deal. It should have been given to him 2 years ago, frankly. They got Dylan Larkin, obviously. Andres Athanasiou is still not signed. Does he go to the KHL? Does he keep holding out? That's just bad contracts. We're giving out, as we talked, Marcus, sentimental value for guys who were there, and they had that great run, but they got to be bad for a while if they're ever going to get back, and they just kind of ride out these contracts. It could be a long couple of years for Detroit.
Yeah, they're in for a long rebuild. They had a lot of draft picks this past year, a lot of mixed grades. I don't know if Michael Rasmussen made the team out of camp. He was one of their first round picks. But yeah, that's a team that's in for a very long season that is probably a lot closer to number 1 pick contention than they are playoff contention. I agree with you. I think Mike Green's probably the most appealing asset if you're making trades.
Marcus, it's just one more thing. It's the only expiring UFA contract they have outside of they just signed David Booth off of PTO to a 1 year.
Yeah, he's starting this.
The one UFA contract they're coming off the book.
Ken Holland is a bad GM.
He got a lot of good. I think his scouting with the European players was so good for a long time, but these are inexcusable contracts that were given out. It really is. It's so.
And it looks like, at least as of yesterday, it looks like Athanasiou is going to Europe and is going to try and play at the Olympics.
Good for him, man. I mean, whenever. No, he's unsigned still. Nothing's happened there. I'm waiting for an offer sheet. I want an offer sheet from the Rangers, but hey.
I mean, a team should. Apparently, they are talking again, according to TSN. But man, I mean, a team should swoop in with an offer sheet.
Ugly.
I mean, I think if Ken Holland was smart, he'd ask one of his buddies to swoop in with an offer sheet just so he can get it done. 7th place in the division. This really pains me with my prediction. I don't know who you have 7th, Connor.
I got a team, Marcus, who we used to love so dearly.
Yep, it's the Florida Panthers.
They blew the whole ship up. I got Florida at 7th, Marcus.
Yeah, and they had a really bad offseason. Letting Yager go.
Awful.
Trading away Jason Demers for JB McGinn. Really strange trade of former Sharks from one of my first really favorite Sharks teams, the 2010 Sharks. That was really odd. I don't get it at all. Demers is good. I like that trade a lot for Arizona.
Yes, so do I.
Some interesting signings. They signed Dadonov, they signed Verbata, but then they signed Michael Haley to a 2-year deal. And
how the hell is Michael Haley still in the NHL? I don't get it.
It's because of their coach, Bob Bugner, who had some interesting comments. He was asked about his thoughts on analytics, given, how the Florida Panthers have basically locked their computer boys in their mom's basements, never to return, after trying for 1 year to be analytically inclined.
More like 4 months to be honest.
Yeah, because it didn't work after everybody on the roster got hurt. So they might as well give it up. Of course, getting rid of Marchessault and losing Riley Smith as well in the expansion draft. Really poor roster management from Dale Talon, who I think has just completely lost it. I was mentioning Bugner had some interesting comments about analytics this week. Either was being deliberately misleading or was himself not informed. He said in an interview that when he was in San Jose, they always had bad possession numbers. This is a team that's been perennially a top 10 Corsi and Fenwick team for years, literally for years, but even before they got there. He did say they had good scoring chance numbers, and that's kind of what they look at more than puck possession, which scoring chance percentage is part of the analytics conversation as well. The comments, seeing those comments, and then you see they give Michael Haley a 2-year deal, and Michael Haley's not bad. He's just not a regular NHLer. You just don't give that guy a 2-year deal. If he's playing regular minutes for your team, you have a depth problem. You just do. He's a good guy, nice guy in the locker room or whatever. But it just feels like they have a lot of it just feels like their bottom six is filled with good guy, tries hard. Like Derek McKenzie, they're still paying him $1.375 million for the next 2 years. They got good talent up top. I think Huberdeau and Barkov are going to have good years. Trocheck as well. But man, a year ago they had what I thought was one of the deepest forward groups, maybe one of the best blue lines. And a year later, I think they're in one of the worst positions of any team in the league in both areas.
Yeah, Marcus, given the guys they gave up with Smith, Yager, Demers, and Marshall Stroll, that is 162 points they just took off their roster.
Yeah, anyone who expects them to be good is
delusional.
Who do you got number 6?
Sure, Marcus. Number 6 here, I think 5 and 6 are kind of interchangeable.
I agree.
I think one that overachieved last year and one that severely underachieved, not to the extent they would have made the playoffs. I got the Sabres at 6 right now. I think the team at 5, it could also finish 6 if the Sabres overachieve a little bit. They just don't have a deep enough roster yet. I mean, they got some young guys. I like their additions this summer with the getting Marcos Candela, who I'm a fan of, and bringing back Jason Pominville, a former captain of the team and whatnot, who's still a pretty productive player in today's NHL. Their blue line is
Ristolainen is a very overrated.
Bogosian is It's just This team is just mediocre. This is
Josh Georges, that contract finally coming off the books after next year.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I actually think Robin Leonard's an underrated goalie. I'm actually a fan of his, and I think Chad Johnson's a decent backup. That's really it. This team is a mediocre, middle-of-the-road team.
I agree.
Could be in the playoff hunt until December and then tail off. I mean, maybe they'll overachieve.
I'm seeing a lot of love for them preseason, and I really just don't get it.
I don't see it. They didn't do enough for me to do any, to improve their roster. Their blue line is still not good.
I think it's Eichel-based, specifically McDavid-based. I think they see what McDavid's done with Edmonton, which is a much better team than the Sabres, and they think, oh, well, Eichel can carry the Sabres. I don't see it. I think they're going to be the 6th-place team in the division. I agree.
Yes, so do I. I like the Benny Pouliot signing. Sam Reinhart's still a really good player. Seth Griffith will have I think a nice year. They have some young, speedy guys, but I mean, what is
and their captain, Eric Eichel, doesn't hate their coach and GM anymore, which is
exactly. So just a blah team, a Matt team, another team,
very Matt,
a Matt team.
Number 5, I got Ottawa.
I got Ottawa too at number 5. They vastly overachieved last year, which we've seen in the first year of Guy Boucher. A lot of teams seem to do. He knows how to make the most of his roster, but man, to get that far. Anderson played out of his mind, and I think at 36 years old, it's a lot to ask for him to play that way again, especially since he doesn't necessarily have the track record of goalies who go into that age bracket. They don't have Brassard to start the season. They don't have Colin White to start the season. Their captain and maybe best player in the world, Erik Karlsson, is missing half of his ankle bone. That is legit. Go look up the quote. I'm not even kidding. They took out part of his ankle. It's not there. He's coming off major surgery. Outside of that, they don't really do a lot to improve their roster, Marcus. It's largely the same team from last year.
Yeah.
And other teams in their division, the 4 teams ahead of them got better. It's plain and simple. Nothing really stands out for me. I mean, they lose Mark Mathod, who's not a game changer, but a decent enough defenseman who was for them for a lot of years, pairing with Erik Karlsson there. Another team, they're just kind of meh, and especially if they have injuries to their top star. They rode their top players last year, Marcus, and they took them all the way because I think that's how good Erik Karlsson is. But I just don't see it happening again.
This is a team that kind of transcended logic a bit last year. Didn't really have a high PDO, which you expect of overperforming teams.
Yeah.
But still had awful possession numbers. They played a very counterattacking style. I think Boucher did a great job with the roster that he had, but it's way too much to expect them to get back to the playoffs, back to the conference finals. Yeah, this is a team that's due, in my opinion, for some pretty significant regression. We get now to I would say the original 6 portion of the division. I have as the next 3 teams. I would say. Well, 3 of the next 4.
Yep.
Who do you have at number 4? I have Boston.
I got Boston too. I actually think Boston has done a really – this is amazing. Since I showed you that picture of them getting rid of all their first-round picks. But
oh, my God, yeah.
Amazingly, though, Boston still has some pretty good youth and prospects coming up within the system. I mean, obviously you saw the tail end of Charlie McAvoy last year. Brandon Carlo, I'm not really sure about on the back end. He had an awful goals per 60 ratio. Goals for or chances for compared to chances against, which is like a minus 4.7. He's one of the top defensemen, my worst defenseman in the league in that aspect. I'm not sure. Paul Potsma they signed though. Oh, I'm a fan of Paul Potsma. I think he's a nice depth defenseman. This maybe could be the last year's Zdeno Chara. He hands over the reins. So I think the blue line's decent enough. The forward group's good. I think Boston's like a year or so away, actually, from kind of being good again. Surprisingly, they were able to figure that out. I don't know how. Still got Tuukka back there. Maybe could do them and could be a little better for them. Boston will compete. They still got Bergeron, Marchand, all those guys, Krejci. I think they have a decent enough blue line. They'll be relevant, but I think they're a year or so away. They need another addition or something.
Yeah, I agree. I think as it stands right now, they're on the outside looking in of the postseason. Number 3, I have their direct rival, the Montreal Canadiens.
Yep.
I actually kind of like what Montreal did this summer. I like the Drouin trade, even though they gave up a puck-moving defenseman. I really like the David Schlemko acquisition. The Carey Price
as well, and good contract too. Only 2.1.
Yeah, good contract. The Sharks signed him too, and then they lost him in the expansion draft. But we'll get to that later. The Carey Price extension, it is what it is. I'm always worried about paying a goalie that much for that long, even when Lundqvist signed, but that's the going rate. I think they're a good team. I think they were a lot better than I expected last year, and I think they're kind of being underrated this offseason. I'm seeing some previews that either have them out of the playoffs or have them, they largely some of them having them out of the playoffs, which I just don't see. They still lost the Shea Weber PK Subban trade, but that's fine. It's very funny that they have a coach now after siding with the coach over PK Subban that the coach got fired. That will never not be funny. Yeah, especially because Subban probably would have been a really good fit in a Claude Julien system.
I agree.
Honestly, if they had Subban, this might be the favorite in the division.
That's debatable. I think their blue line got much better. I think they probably the money for Carl Alsner is probably the going rate. It's the length I have with with that contract, 5 years. If that was honestly, so he got 4.625. I would have rather given him like 3 years and almost upped it closer to $5 million. I would have been much more comfortable with that because that's a guy.
Guys like him just don't age well.
No, that's the thing. I think he's still going to be productive this year. After this year, that's when you see that really flip of those switch, if you will. But I like Slemko, so I think their blue line is actually pretty decent.
I really like Brandon Davidson, who they got from Edmonton at the deadline last year.
I haven't seen a ton of Brandon Davidson. I mean, I saw a little bit of him last year, but wasn't not enough sample size. But I've heard good things, especially from you. And then I've always been they lose Radulov, which is good for them actually for not overpaying for him and getting desperate. They bring in Ales Hemsky, who I've always been a fan of.
We love Ales Hemsky.
So do I.
Roller hockey star.
That's right. Top 9 guy, if you will. He's not necessarily a top 6 or a bottom 6. He's a top 9. Good third line wing. Can play.
Put him on your power play.
Power play guy. He'll be great if in 4-on-4 or 3-on-3 situations in overtime. Good shootout guy. Could steal you a point or two that way. So good signing. Montreal. Yeah, and I like Drew, and I think he's going to have a big year. So, Montreal actually had a nice offseason. They got some cap space to make him push, later in the year, for sure.
I think they're going to miss Andrei Markov a little bit. I think they're going to miss even though he's an older player, I think they're going to miss some of his offense.
Still effective into his into his old age.
And I think that's a guy who's out of the league due to Russophobia, due to Russia, a little bit of xenophobia towards Russians. I think if his name was Andrew Marks and he was born in Alberta, he's probably still in the league.
And he was from Wisconsin. Yeah.
Yeah. So number two, I have a team that dealt with maybe the most injuries in human history last year.
We're on the same page. I think the same thing.
The Tampa Bay Lightning,
yes!
number 2.
Go Leafs.
Yeah, so that means I got the Toronto Maple Leafs number 1. We'll start with the Lightning. Even without Drouin, this is like they're still a really good, deep team. As long as they stay healthy, like they're a cup contender. They're going to be in the mix. We thought last summer that it would be a Lightning Preds matchup after the craziest day in NHL offseason history. Got to worry a little bit about that Ryan Callahan contract. I'm not sure how healthy he's been during.
Not played a lot
during training camp. Has he played during training camp?
I'm not sure, to be honest. I really haven't kept that. I mean, he only played. Listen, the guy played 18 games last year.
Right.
It's not. I don't know how much you could expect from the guy.
He's their second highest paid forward, and he's got apparently he's ready to rock. So
good. Go Cali.
Callahan, undisclosed, is listed on the opening night roster. An injury-prone winger. He found his way into just 18 games last year. Nature of his latest ailment was not disclosed. We know that it stemmed from the winger blocking a shot in a preseason contest Saturday. If there's nothing more Ryan Callahan than getting hurt blocking a shot in preseason, I don't know what is more Ryan Callahan than that. This is a team that it's got to deal with a little bit of some got to find some flexibility with the cap. They've only got like $1 million in space right now.
Yeah, they could be in trouble with that. I mean, I like the Chris Kunitz signing. They've still got some young guys here, but yeah, the next year or so could be an issue. And my biggest point of emphasis here was I like Vasilevsky, but he's still going to be like a rookie with a full-time starting job, basically, with no Ben Bishop there sitting around him. And if Dan Girardi plays in your top 4, I'm not picking you to win the division. So
no, yeah, I agree. Yeah, exactly. That's where I stand. If you've got Girardi playing significant minutes, I don't give that experiment very long. If this Sergachev kid is the real deal, and it seems like he might be, he's still up. He's still up with the team as of last check.
He's still on the roster.
So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, I got the number 2. In large part because of, they've got a great top 2, Hedman, Strawman, but after that, it's a bit of a drop off in their defense. So they need Sergachev to play a big role this year because, like you said, Dan Girardi's in your top 4. I'm not picking you to win the division, which leaves the top team in the division, the Toronto Maple Leafs. We've got Leafs fever. They signed longtime Shark Patrick Marleau, also signed Ron Hainsey.
Good signing for Hainsey. I like Hainsey.
Yeah, and they've got a decent little fence there. They have $0 in salary cap space until long-term injured reserve comes into play.
I think
I believe they currently have 0. They've got 2 guys on LTIR. They have $0 in salary cap.
I think that's with it.
Yeah, it is. Geez, that is with 15 forwards though, so they'll send a guy down. Maybe they'll send down Austin Matthews for cap relief. Briefly to mess with the salary cap. Could you imagine they send him down to the Marlies just to save money on the cap?
And he
call him back up.
Plays 3 games with the Marlies and scores like 17 points, and then he comes back. They're like, all right, we're good now. We had to wait. We had to wait for the percentages of the cap to drop for the first 2 weeks.
I like this team a lot. A lot of young talent. I really like the Marleau signing. Probably too expensive, probably too long, but hey, for this year, I think it's really going to help them. He'll help their power play. I think Tyler Bozak might be a sneaky trade candidate.
My biggest question mark for the Leafs is that they don't have any salary cap space to improve their team. So this is pretty much their team going forward. And I love their team, but you still think, even the good teams make small tweaks here and there. They literally get barely. I don't know if they'll be able to bring anybody. So yeah, my question was going to be for you to do even if they're on pace to win this division, they're fine. Do they have the guts to trade a Van Riemsdyk or a Bozak or a Komarov?
I don't know if they have the guts because I think Babs loves Bozak. They are an analytically inclined organization, so I think they'd realize that Bozak is kind of a bit overrated. I don't think they trade JVR though. I think if you do trade one of those guys, it's Bozak. And Bozak probably has a little more value as a center, as much as it pains me to say it. I could see they probably trade him out west, frankly, to a team that could use some center depth. But he's got a modified no trade, so he's going to have some some say over where he goes. So we like the Leafs. We like the Lightning. We don't like the Florida Panthers.
Marcus, how many teams you have out of the Atlantic here? I just got the top three.
I got the top three. I got the Lightning and the Habs and the Leafs.
All right. Well, why don't we go to the opposite end of the spectrum, just so we're not jumping around from conference to conference. We'll stick with the Metropolitan Division here, and none other than the girl we love to hate, but has impacted us all in some odd way. Regina George herself in the Metropolitan.
Raise your hand if you've been victimized by the Metropolitan Division.
Yeah, that's me. My whole life, I've been victimized by Regina George. She's tortured me for years and years and years. We'll start with the bottom here, Marcus. A team who is better, but their blue line still absolutely sucks. Might be the worst in the NHL, the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You got Mirko Mueller playing significant minutes for that team. I've liked their offseason, though. I really like the Marcus.
So they've done the right things, but they need to suck for another year or two.
Yeah, and I think, they've got what's his name? The youngin.
Nico Hischier, and they had a good offseason. Then they got Marcus Johansson. They stole him from the Caps. I actually like the forward. Devils insider Kevin Stanley, we've talked about it before. I actually really like the Devils forward group. Taylor Hall, Zajac, Palmieri still there. Johansson's going to be a nice pick. Obviously, Adam Henrique. Brian Boyle, hoping all the best for him. I think he's going to be okay. It sounds like he seems very optimistic, which is great. Big fan of Brian Boyle. Pavel Zacha another year, Nico Hischier, Drew Stafford was a nice signing. Jimmy Hayes is, can round out your bottom. So actually their offense is not bad.
Yeah, I like their forward group.
And then their blue line is just awful.
They're going to be a fun bad team, though. Like Detroit will not be a fun bad team.
Yeah, at least there's optimism with the Devils now. At least
like if you wanted to do like Zach Lowe does the league pass rankings of teams, I would imagine the Devils would be on the center ice rankings or the game center rankings would be up pretty high. I think they're going to play some entertaining games, some back and forth games. And if Corey Schneider can bounce back this year, there is a bit of an opening at the bottom of the Metro with, the 4 and the 5 spot. I think 1 through 7, no, not 1 through 7. I'd say like 3 through 7 are pretty interchangeable. And if Corey Schneider can rediscover that resident form and is hot, maybe they're in contention in March, but I don't think they'll, I certainly don't think they're anywhere close to the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree. Marcus, so you just talked about it. 3 through 7, I think I changed my order just for the sake of the joke 69 times. So
yeah, nice. I don't think I'm gonna like my predictions.
I don't think I'm gonna like them either, but I changed them. At 7, I have the New York Islanders.
Okay, I got the Flyers.
Okay, so I have the Flyers at 6.
Okay, so let's talk Isles because that's where I have the Isles at 6.
Yeah, so we'll talk Islanders Flyers here. The Islanders, I think they stayed flat because their blue line got worse and their offense got a little bit better. And their goal.
I like the Everly trade a lot. I think he's going to match.
I do too, but I just think their blue line didn't get any better from it. Johnny Boychuk got old really fast.
Right.
He went from being like, oh, what a great trade to, oh, shit, that's not very good anymore. I still love Nick Leddy.
He might be the most underrated defenseman in the league.
Nick Leddy's really good. Calvin DeHaan, yeah. And then after that, it's just kind of, Tomasiki, probably these guys, Dennis Seidenberg, like whatever. Their goaltending situation, just because they are such a poorly run organization, they've made it into a controversy. And I don't know who's going to start, Halak or Grice. And then their forward group, and then obviously the stuff with the arena, they put in to get that thing in Belmont, the arena. But, I mean, that's an issue. And, boy, oh, boy, I think I want the Islanders to be bad because I want to see the John Tavares trade happen.
Yeah.
Because I think it would be so entertaining.
They got to trade him. If they're out of contention at the deadline.
Oh, you have no choice. You have no choice in the matter. You're going to get 2 first-round picks. You're going to get a top prospect. You're going to get another guy who's an NHL player. You have to do it. There's no debate.
Even if he's a UFA, you're going to get top dollar for trading him at the deadline.
Yeah, he's a top 10 player in the league. He's going to get that money. So
you're getting, I think, at least at minimum, because I think you can get what you said, but I think that might be a little much. I think at minimum you're getting a first and a top prospect.
Minimum. Maybe a first and a third and a top. You'll get something like that. Yeah.
If if Ho-Sang and Barzal are as good as they've looked this preseason.
Agreed. I think that could help them.
That's good. Those are the X factors, because if they could get top 6 production from those guys, it kind of slots everybody else in the lineup into their natural positions. I like Ho-Sang a lot. He's already one of my favorite players. Barzal is really good too. They're a team I've got in 6th, but you've got them 7th, but I can still see them making the playoffs.
Like, no, so can I. That's the problem. Like, this is all just a dumpster fire here. Not a dumpster fire, but just like a roulette wheel, if you will. I'm not really sure who's – it's all predicted on, oh, yeah, I think this is going to happen. You know, all the reason I have the Flyers above them is because you just talked about the young guns at forward. The Flyers have the young guns at forward if Nolan Patrick stays healthy and maybe Travis Konecny. But they got the young guns on the blue line, which is why I like them. Obviously, Ghost is there. Brandon Manning.
Might be better than Ghost.
Provorov is as legit as they come. I mean, I am as then it looks like Morin's going to make the lineup. I'm not to use, but Travis Steinheim. They have probably the deepest prospect pool in all of hockey. They are going to be. I think they could be a lethal team potentially. You know. So you have puck moving defense, and their power play. My guess is their power play is top 3 in the league, which will keep them in it because if there's going to be more power plays, they're going to score a lot of goals. I think their goaltending situation is okay. I think they have 2 guys who could be fine in Elliott and Neuwirth. I'm actually a big Michael Neuwirth.
Yeah, if you're going to go cheap in net, you can't go. You could do a lot worse than Elliott.
Yeah, I think they're fine. So I think it's interchangeable. I just happen to like the blue line of the Flyers a lot more than I like the Islanders, and I'm a defenseman. Yeah. I think it's built through that. So because of that reason, that's why I picked them. Listen, the Flyers finished 8th, and the Islanders finished 3rd. I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. But you know,
I just think people are like overrating this team. I mean, I know they got the 2nd pick last year through some lottery, mishaps, and they weren't the 2nd worst team in the league. But like, I do like their blue line a lot. I think Patrick staying healthy is a huge, huge, huge if, given the last few years. And Giroux on the wing, like, we'll see how that works. Like, on paper, you like it, but, I don't know if it serves their team. I think they might be better served going Patrick, Giroux, Couturier down the middle in terms of depth.
And then you got 3 legit centers, and yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not opposed.
Giroux struggled a little bit the last few years, but he's still really good. I mean, yes, that contract's a little much, but like that was the going rate. And I love Wayne Simmons. He's an underrated. He'll be underrated forever. So who do you have number 6 then? The Isles?
Yeah, so I got Isles 7, Flyers 6.
Isles 7. I've got them reversed. Who do you have 5?
5, I have the Rangers at 5. I think they're going to be the wild card team. I think they'll get in. I think they're better. I think here's the thing, and you look at the some of the advanced predictions and the metrics and all that stuff. They're gonna generate more offense, but to ask them to shoot the way they did last season is unreasonable and ridiculous if you think that's the case. I think with the addition, had they just got rid of Dan Girardi, they would have been better, and then they got Kevin Shattenkirk. Now that makes them infinitely. Their top 4 is now actually a pretty legit.
Have they been using a legit top 4, or is Mark Stahl still in the top 4?
No, right now Mark Stahl slated in the 3rd pair with Anthony D'Angelo, who I'm also has been nice in the offseason. I mean, they actually have 5 legit NHL defensemen, and they could have 6 if they just weren't in love with Mark Stahl and Nick Holden. But that's
so fine. Nick Holden starting as the 7th.
Yeah, it's as of now. That's what the.
Wow, that's not going to last long with AV.
No, I don't trust AV as far as I could throw him. I think there's serious concerns with the forward depth. They lost 2 centers in one off season, and Derek Stepan, who got a bad rep in New York, but 55-point guys don't grow on trees.
He played the Sharks over the weekend. It's still weird seeing him in a Coyotes jersey.
Yeah, I know. It's certainly I can imagine that's going to be an interesting sight to see. I think that's an issue. I mean, Philip Hedl, he is lethal. I don't know if you've been following him. I've been seeing him. He's one of their first round. So they had 2 first-round picks. Elias Anderson, who they sent back to Sweden to develop because he'll be their 1 or 2 center there, which is fine. They got Philip Hedl, who's slotted into play center. Actually, they got Hedl with Nash and Zuccarello, which could be a lot of fun. Just turned 18 years old like a month ago. He was the youngest player. He was the youngest player in the draft. He has hands that I haven't seen in New York, I think, ever. In my time saying there, as far as how good he is. So listen, it's a lot of pressure for an 18-year-old. I still could probably see him going 9 games, then them sending him back. But I think the Rangers and the team I have at 4 have both set themselves up nicely to make a huge splash at the trade deadline. The Rangers, depending on the cap situation, what they do, which I think they'll figure out a little bit later. But the Rangers, I think, are setting themselves up for that. But I think they're going to be a good possession team. The power play will be better. I just think everybody else is still pretty good. And the team I have at 4 is probably the most improved team in the league, and somewhat long shot to put money on to make a Stanley Cup run. It's a team I have at 4, and I think you agree is the Carolina Hurricanes.
I got them at 3.
Do you? Okay, so I still have the Canes at 4.
I got the Blue Jackets at 4.
You got the Blue Jackets at 4. All right, so let's talk Hurricanes first here. Obviously, we've talked about them in their offseason preview.
God, we love this team.
I love this team. They're deep. So as long as Scott Darlin is somewhat competent, I think they're going to be a really good team. Their blue line is deep. They're young. They have so much salary space. They can make. We talked about the Sedins. We talked about Matt Duchene being an option for Carolina. They had the young defense.
Let's go.
John Tavares. They had the young defenseman they could give up. They could give up, Falk or Hannafin or Fleury. They got Trevor Van Riemsdyk in there. Jakob Slavin's fantastic. I mean, this team, Brett Pesce. I mean, they're unbelievable. They really are a fantastic team. I think if they finish 3rd, hell, I could see them when finishing high as 2nd. I got to be honest. That's how good I think Carolina is. I went back and forth between them and then the Caps and the Jackets in there. I was mixing it up, but I just think they're a good team, and they're still they're a cheap team, and the fact that they still got a lot of money they could potentially use at the salary cap. I think that's exciting.
There's no team that's in a better position, I think, for the future, or long set up to win now and set up for long-term success.
Yeah, we talked about it. If you ask me to coach or GM any team in the league right now, I'd want to be in charge of Carolina, because that's how good I think their future is. This team is set up. They can make a run this year, and they will be in the running for the next minimum 5, as long as they don't screw anything up.
And given the cap space they have, I think they're in a better position than both the Leafs that have Matthews and absolutely the Oilers with McDavid.
I don't even think it's a debate. That's how good. That's because if Tavares gets the free agency, they can literally give Tavares they can pay Tavares $12 million a year if he wants. They could absolutely. They could sign Tavares $12 million a year and still sign somebody else. I mean, it's. I think the Canes.
They're very well positioned. I'm high on them. I'm trying to. This is probably the boldest I'm going to go with any of my picks, is having them at number 3.
All right,
I got the Blue Jackets at 4, though.
Fine.
They overachieved last year. They overachieved last year, and I think people decided that they're a Tortorella coach team that's due for regression.
I think the Panarin trade is bad for them. He's not going to mesh with Tortorella. That's going to be ugly. And Panarin also had the benefit of playing with frickin' Patrick Kane over here. You know what? You sold me. I'm gonna flip the Canes and Jackets out in the air. So I got the Canes at 3. I got the Jackets at 4 there.
Yeah, I can
they
overachieved last year. They lost Sam Gagner.
I still like their top
the team out of camp, but their blue line's still great. They got Werenski, they got Murray, they got Jones. They still got Bobrovsky, but will he stay healthy? That's always a question with him. Not that he's bad. When he's healthy, he's one of the 3 best goalies in the league. When he's not, I mean, and it's a Tortorella coach team, a lot like those Ranger teams. It's just kind of
it's gonna wear out.
Overachieving a bit is due for regression.
Yeah, it's gonna wear out. All right, that's fine. So Jackets at 4, Canes at 3. That means our top 2 in the Metro pretty much stay the same here. I got the Caps at 2. I know they lost seemingly everybody, but their offense is still too good not to be successful.
This is the team I could see dropping the most, however.
I could see it too. I don't think I have the balls to do it just yet with Ovechkin and everybody there. I think Holtby is good enough to mask a lot of the deficiencies on that blue line. But if anybody's going to take a major dip in regression, it could be this team. The blue line is not good. They lose a lot of depth. Obviously, Orlov and Shattuck, Johansson up front. I just think I think their top six is still pretty legit, and I think it's so legit in how much they could score that like kind of overcompensates for things. And then they got arguably the best goalie in the league right now in Braden Holtby. He's certainly up there. He's certainly a top three.
I have him as the best goalie in the league.
Yeah, I think right now you'd have to give it to him. So it makes sense to me to have him there. Not a ton of.
And they got an Australian, Nathan Walker, apparently making the team out of camp.
Good for him. A little Aussie action. During the 2012 lockout, the half-season lockout, I actually watched some AIHL games online, which is the Australian Ice Hockey League, because I was so desperate for hockey. Caps at, pretty standard. I think the next two are pretty standard. The Caps at 2 and the Penguins at 1. Pens,
they don't have a third-line center, which is, okay.
I think, when you have Crosby and Malkin, you could throw whoever you want there as a third-line center. I don't really care. I think the Penguins got worse.
I do too.
But I think the Caps got so much worse, and the other teams that are below them are not quite there yet, like the Canes and stuff, and maybe Flyers or whoever in a couple of years. So Penn still winning the Metro Division. Are Regina George, the Pittsburgh Penguins?
Yes,
ruining.
They are the Regina George of the NHL in the division that is the Regina George of the NHL. So we gotta go out west.
You got the top 5 thing, right? You got Pens, Caps, Canes, Shack. Yep, so do I. I got this. Yep, I got the same thing. Let's go out west here, Marcus. We'll go to Regina's almost sidekick there for a while until she's none for Gretchen Wieners, as they say, right? So Gretchen Wieners,
Brutus is just as cute as Caesar. The Pacific is just as good as the Metro.
That's right. According to Gretchen, they are Gretchen Wieners in the Pacific Division. Weird division, Marcus. I don't know.
So odd.
I have no clue. This division was harder than the Metro for me because there are teams who I think should be good, but also if they showed up and got 75 points, I'd be like, yeah, that makes sense. I have no clue. But I will start with the team, Marcus, who is, I think, finally accepting their fate as they're not good anymore. And they're going to start just letting everybody go. And that is the Vancouver Canucks. I had the Vancouver Canucks at 8.
Free the Sedins.
Free the Sedins. I know they wrote that. They wrote a Players Tribune or something like that saying they don't want to leave. Dude, just leave. Go for a year. Go together. Go to Carolina together and win a Stanley Cup. Awesome. And it would be so fun. I'm almost a Hurricane fan now just because of that thought.
Hey, you lived in you've got legit
I was born in North Carolina. Thank you very much. That's right, south of the Mason-Dixon. Had I stayed down there, who knows? Yeah, listen, goaltending's pretty crappy. The blue line,
pretty crappy.
Pretty crappy. Their forward group is pretty crappy. Yeah, they're just a crappy team. They're not good.
I like the Thomas Vanek signing. They'll flip him at the deadline for a
trade Vanek. You could trade, maybe trade the Sedins. I don't know. You could trade,
Branson.
They love Branson. Is up at the deadline. I don't know if they'll trade him or not, but yeah, whatever. Bad team, finishing 8th. Which means, Marcus, I don't even need to go into detail with the Canucks. They're not going to be good. If you have any arguments, you're an idiot. That means the Las Vegas Golden Knights coming in at 7th here.
Yeah, I got them 7th. I think that's the right. I've seen some predictions that have Vegas as high as 5th in the division, which is just
come on.
We got to stop overthinking it. They're going to be bad. I know people are ripping McPhee. He drafted too many defensemen.
And now it's
absolutely they have too many blue liners. They had to send down Theodore and Shipachyov until they could clear out some of the detritus on the team. I do think this team is very well positioned for the future, though, in terms of their actual draft picks, not their expansion draft picks. So they sent some of those young guys back to junior already, but they're going to be bad. They're going to flip guys at the deadline. They're going to get picks. They do have way too many defensemen. They got 10 defensemen. Jesus Christ. They gotta get rid of some. Some of these guys are movable, though, I think. Some of these guys. are movable on the blue line. I mean, but here's the thing. They got 10 defensemen, 5 of which are unrestricted free agents. So it's like, okay, they've got a lot there now, but they're going to be gone. I kind of like their forward group a little bit. Like, I think there's some intrigue there once they get healthy. Once James Neal is off the IR and back to kneeing kids on trains. David Perron, I like. Cody Eakin, I like. Riley Smith, I like. Marcia Show, I like. Oscar Lindbergh, I like. But like any expansion team, all of these guys are going to be asked to do too much given their talent level. So I think 7th, I mean, it's an achievement that they're not going to be the worst team in their division, frankly.
Yeah, good for
an expansion. That's an achievement.
Good for them. Marcus, now it's the next set of teams here, and I didn't know where to put anybody. I changed my mind several times, and so I just decided to say screw them because I don't like them, and I don't think their cap situation is very good. I had the Los Angeles Kings at 6.
I have them at 5, but I can see why you would put them at 6. This is a team that I'm sounding the alarms right now. This team is being significantly overrated in a lot of respects this preseason. Oh, they got Jonathan Quick. They got Jonathan Quick back. Peter Budaj gave him better goaltending than Jonathan in terms of save percentage than Jonathan Quick's given them. They're going to be bad. I mean, they're not. I don't think they're a playoff team. I don't think they're particularly close. They weren't close last year. Yes, losing Quick hurt, but yeah, man, you said it. Their cap situation is screwed to all heck. The fact they did not give up Dustin Brown in the expansion draft is like, I don't know how that. I have no idea how that happened. I honestly have no idea how that happened. And now you've got the rumblings of whether or not Drew Doughty's going to leave in 2 years. I don't think it's looking good for the Kings and their new. I mean, I like John Stevens. I think he's a good coach. I like Rob Blake as the GM. I think he'll do some things, but this team's not very good. They haven't been very good, frankly, since they won their last Stanley Cup. They've missed the playoffs 2 out of 3 years.
Yeah, they're a dumpster fire with their cap situation. When your best acquisition is Mike Camilleri, you're in trouble.
They need to do a lot more.
Not a good team. So you have them at 5, which means I got the Coyotes at 5. I guess you have them at 6 then. Does that make sense?
Yes. I love the Demers acquisition. I still have them at 6 because I just think they're not quite there. If Clayton Keller is as good as he can be, if Max Domi stops saying we need to stop allowing immigrants into countries and focuses on hockey, then like they can maybe they'll. No, that was a bad joke. Sorry, bad joke. I like their young talent collection though.
I like the step-on acquisition. They got Hjalmarsson. They got the Mares.
I think they have one of, if not the best top 4 in the division.
Yeah, for sure. And then Ronka, I think, helps them out in goaltending. I like the Coyotes. I really think if they were willing to make a deadline move, that they could flirt with a playoff spot. They have
the space. They got the space to do it.
I like Phoenix a lot.
Can you imagine they get Tavares?
Oh my God! Can you imagine that?
The deadline.
That'd be pretty legit. Yeah, I like Phoenix. I like what they did in the offseason. They got better. They realized they gave up that first round pick to the Rangers, but it made sense. I mean, they have so much prospects. That's why you build up prospects so you can move a couple here or there. And that's what they did. I think they did a good job. I like their all season. I like Phoenix. At 4, Marcus is a team where I don't know, because at first I really didn't think they were going to be that good. And then I started reading into them more, and their underlying numbers, contrary to Florida's new coach, are pretty good. The San Jose Sharks at 4. I
got them at 4 too.
I don't know. I've been going back and forth. I'm going to put 5 Central teams in or 4 and 4. I don't know. I still don't know if I really like the Sharks blue line. That they took a big step back last year, I thought. Obviously Brent Burns, Paul Martin, but that's an old blue line. Vlasic, who obviously got worse last year.
A lot of it was because of Braun, but we're gonna use the 2 of them the same way they did last year, and they struggled.
That's the problem. If they don't make changes there,
the Schlemko loss hurts them a lot. A lot of people were kind of overrating Dylan DeMello. I think DeMello's good, but he's not as good as David Schlemko. That third pairing is still going to be decent, but it's going to take a bit of a step back. I ran the comparison this summer. They traded Demers 2 years ago to get 3 years ago now to get Dylan. And looking at what Demers has done since and what Braun and Dylan have done since, I don't think it's indisputable that they made the wrong decision. They should have kept Demers, and they should not have traded for Brendan Dillon. And, I understand they're like, oh, we were loaded on the rights. I don't care. They should not have done. They shouldn't have done it. They should have kept Demers over Braun. For me, I can't have them any higher than 4th. I still think they can be a playoff team. I'm fluctuating back and forth between whether or not they will be. As of this prediction, I have only 3 teams from the Pacific making the playoffs. But I am willing to go 4 if it means that a certain team from the Central misses the playoffs, which I think is very feasible, which we'll talk about in a few minutes here. Yeah, I just they're relying on too many things to go their way this year. They're relying on all their young guys to step up, all of their veterans to bounce back. Joe Thornton's coming off significant knee surgery. Joe Pavelski had a bad year last year. No one's going to talk about it because the guy is immune from criticism, apparently. He didn't have a great year last year, and he's 34 years old. I just, I think people are really overestimating how much they can fill Marlowe's loss, when not only did they need to fill Marlowe's loss, they need to exceed what they lost with Marlowe. And I think they're relying. There's too many ifs, too many ifs. This goes right. If this goes right. If this goes right. Just too many of those. That being said, they do have $8 million in salary. They've got about $6 million in salary cap space at the deadline. If that projects out to about 27, they could make a move at the deadline. Their farm system isn't great, but they have the cap flexibility to do something. And I think they should do something because as it stands right now, I think they're a bubble team. They're a bubble team.
Yeah, I think they're a bubble team too. I don't really know where they stand. I want to like the Sharks. I think, they've done some really good things in recent years. But, yeah, I like how you put it with the Marlowe situation is that, you don't those points just don't come out of nowhere. And you just to expect – even if you expect 2 of the young guys to make up that
27 goals last year.
If you expect 2 of, you have a couple 20-year-olds on the roster. I mean, if you expect 2 of them to make that up, I mean, that's almost, 14 goals apiece. I mean, that's not right. It doesn't just happen. That doesn't just happen. So a lot to be said with the Sharks there. We move up to the top of the division here, Marcus. A team which we talked about early in the show with the Jaromir Jagr signing. I like them all around except for their goaltending situation, which we could see being bizarre. I don't know. They thought they solved it with Mike Smith and getting rid of Brian Elliott.
And that's the only thing that is holding me that I could see San Jose jumping them because
exactly this goaltending is bad. Offensive group, I freaking love it. I love the Chuck. Yeah. I love
Glass.
Well, if Tanner Glass plays, and maybe they'll finish 8th, but. Michael Frolik, I've always been a fan of. And the blue line is flirting with the best in the NHL. It's up there with Nashville's. That's how good I think it is. I love Giordano still. Hamilton, Brody. I love the Travis Hamonic acquisition. I love they overpaid for Michael Stone, to be honest.
Yeah.
But, still a decent enough 5th defenseman. Their forward group's going to be a lot of fun. So much speed, so much youth. But, yeah, their goaltending. I mean, Mike Smith and Eddie Lack. If
they get average goaltending, they're firmly in the playoffs. If they don't,
no doubt in my mind, no doubt they will. But if they don't, they could be in serious trouble. That goaltending situation is ugly. I don't know what.
And I honestly as much as where I have the Sharks as a bubble team, I do not like the top of the division at all. These top 2 teams that we're about to get into, I think both could experience some pretty severe regression this season, especially the team who I have picked to finish first place, which we'll get into. But number 2, I got the Oilers. They still got some flexibility this year. They got $9 million in cap space, but the guillotine is coming. The cap guillotine is coming, not because they signed McDavid to a $12.5 million deal, but because they gave Milan Lucic $6 million a year. And, oh, by the way, they gave Chris Russell $4 million a year. And both of those guys are signed until, drum roll please, Connell. they are both signed until 2021-22 at the earliest. In Lucic's case, he's a free agent in 2023. Yes, when we're in the primary season for not the next election, the following presidential election, Milan Lucic will become a free agent.
Nightmare. Yeah, Flames at 3, Oilers at 2. It's amazing how the Oilers have somehow put themselves in like a win now scenario, Marcus.
Yeah, it's so odd.
That's how bad the contracts are. I mean, they still got a lot of cap space coming up, but they got to pay. You know, I mean, that's going to go away.
Tavares rental destination. I think if
they really
want there as a rental to try and win a cup, I think they should go all in on that. Because they're in win, like you said, they're in win now mode.
I mean, they have $9.5 million in cap space this year, but that goes away once McDavid's contract goes in next year. It's that blue line is, but you know, Cam Talbot and Connor McDavid. There's your answer to your problems. I mean, and Draisaitl. Yeah, I mean,
if Talbot regresses even a little bit from Vezina form, they could be in for a rough patch. Yeah, they relied on him a lot, and they're not going to play Laurent Brossoit more than 15 games.
15 is a stretch. I mean, Talbot played like 70 games last year. It was like he was freaking Brodeur, the early 2000 Devils, when he was playing 73 games a day. A game, excuse me. That'd be
73 games a day.
Chris Russell, awful. Adam Larson, average. Oscar Klefbom, it's probably their best defenseman. Then Sekera. Not a great blue line. They might need to make a move for a defenseman, but they got Connor McDavid. That puts him at 2 for me. And rounding out the Pacific, I got the Ducks at number 1, Marcus. I think we both agree. I
do too, but I think this is a team, I think they overachieved a bit last year. They probably had no right being as good as they were. A Randy Carlyle coach team with bad possession numbers, that does not bode well for the second year. I think they've got the best blue line in the division, though. I mean,
that's their saving grace for me is their blue line. The fact they were able to keep all those guys at the expansion drafts is amazing.
But, Lindholm and Vatanen on IR to start the year.
Yeah.
And that could come into play here in the division. I still think they're able to ride it out. But this is a team I think I'm going to pull up their possession numbers. From last year, because this is a team that was I don't even think they were middle of the pack. I want to say they were in the 20s last year, maybe. Hold on, let me. God damn it! Trying to just find
what site are you using?
I'll just go to Corsica from last year.
Yeah, go to Corsica. That's probably your best bet. It's
easy to really get Corsica's back, new and improved. I'm gonna donate to.
I haven't been on it yet. I gotta check it out.
It's pretty nice. It looks a lot cleaner. God, you still gotta use Firefox. It doesn't like Chrome for some reason.
Yeah.
So I'm pulling up. This is the long and the short of pulling up they were 49.67 in 5-5 Corsi last year. That was good enough for 19th in the league. Edmonton was 18th. I think both these rosters are flawed, and that's why, even though I see the Sharks as a bubble team, and again, a lot of ifs have to go their way, but structurally, the Sharks are, I think, a little stronger. I think the Flames are a little stronger than Edmonton and Anaheim, and structurally, if those teams regress a little bit and Calgary and San Jose overachieve, I can see them being the 1 and 2 in the division. I think this division is wide open, and I think that's. The Sharks and the Flames and the Coyotes and the Kings, that's their saving grace, is that this division is wide open.
Yeah, I agree. That kind of helps them out here in the long run. All right, so once again there, folks, so that's our Regina Georgia Pacific Division. Ducks at 1, Oilers 2, Flames, Sharks, Yotes, Kings, Vegas, Canucks. Marcus, how many teams you got out of this division make the playoffs?
I'm gonna say 4, so I'll have the Sharks in so I can make the controversial Central position. Okay. But I'm not very confident in the Sharks making the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't know. The West, there's like 5 teams that I really feel comfortable putting in the playoffs, and then everybody else I'm like kind of about.
Yeah.
Yeah, screw them. I only because of all the underlying numbers I've been reading about the Sharks. I'll have them squeaking in as maybe that second wild card or first wild card.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll move over to the Central. All right, Katie Heron here, the new girl on the block, if you will, looking to overtake Regina George. I mean, maybe not the new girl on the block, but a little bit
definitely looking to overtake Regina George.
But to could definitely overtake Regina George,
and has its own set of problems, its own set of issues. Regina's not the only one with flaws.
That's right, of course.
The Central's got plenty of flaws, namely the Colorado Avalanche.
Well, Marcus, if there's one pick I was sure about in this entire NHL, it was the seventh spot in the Central, and that's Colorado Avalanche, who had the worst year in post and salary cap era last year, and could somehow actually be worse this year. Probably because their division got better. Man, they suck. They are going to be so bad, and if they're going to trade Matthew Shane, they'll be even worse. There's not a lot of good things to say about this roster. Their top 3 guys, McKinnon, Duchesne, and Landeskog, are at least still young. That's all I got. I can't say anything else positive about this roster.
Hey, they signed Alex Kerfoot, and Nail Yakupov might not be dead yet. Somehow they only have $5 million in cap space too. Like they are, they need to tear it all down and then some. That is that's a team. Hey, maybe their goaltending's a little better. They got Bernier as the backup. But that's the nicest. Wow, that's the nicest. That's the nicest thing I can say about that.
One thing that makes the playoffs, it's backup goaltending.
Yes. Who you got at 6?
All right, so this is where we get into some controversy. I feel bad for the St. Louis Blues, so I have at 6, Marcus, because I think they're a decent team. I think the Robbie Fabry loss is huge for them. Youth there. Outside of that, I think they have an okay team, which I'm impressed with. I said I gave them kudos for trading Shattenkirk last year, and they still were, making the playoffs and all that stuff. But Tarasenko's legit, and I think he's their only legit offensive threat, which is an issue. I think their offense, Steen, who's starting the year, is injured. Stasny in his last year of his contract. Good players, but they're more support characters. They got some youth here, a little bit on the end of this, but obviously their blue line is great. Pietrangelo. I'm curious to see Colton Parayko. I know everybody's very high on him, and I am too. But for a guy who everyone is really high on, I mean, he's got a legit shot. He's still not a great skater, Marcus.
Yeah.
I wonder how much that could be an issue going forward for St. Louis. Obviously, Pietrangelo is legit. Jay Bouwmeester, who is still somehow in the league and is only 34. Jay Bouwmeester, in my mind, is 75 years old. And then their goaltending. I mean, I like Jake Allen. I think he finally came into his own last year. They got too young, but I don't know. I think people are pretty high on them, and I'm not really sure why.
Yeah,
they're a meh team.
I struggle with them.
Is as legit of a scorer as they're in the league. And after that, and after Pietrangelo, and their team's okay. Like they're okay.
Yeah, I think they kind of got lucky to make the postseason a bit last year after losing what's his name, Shattenkirk. Yeah, you've talked me into it. I got them at 6. I had them higher. I had them in the top 4.
But, okay. Yeah.
But you've talked me into it. I've got them at 6 as well.
They just don't have that's what they are. I mean, I don't know. They could make the playoffs, but I'm taking a little bit of risk. I'm not taking the usual the routes here because there's a team who I am so high on that I think could make a threat for the top 3. That's how high I am, and then we'll get there. All right, Marcus. Controversy ensues. Who do you have at 5?
I got Chicago.
Chicago Blackhawks at 5. Give it to me.
Yeah, if the Blues hadn't had the injury issues that they're having, I think we'd be talking a lot more about the Blackhawks. I like the Saad Panarin swap for them. I'm one of like 3 people on the planet who does. I think Brandon Saad is very underrated as a player. I know he didn't mesh with Torts, but like, Torts hated him for some reason. Like, cool, whatever. But like Patrick Sharp's 35, and they're relying on him to be a significant player. This DeBrincat kid looks legit. They have everyone's favorite 7-year-old Tommy Wingles. And they did sign Cody Franzen, it looks like, to a looks like he's been signed to a full deal with the team.
Oh wow, that just happened. Unconfirmed. That literally must have just happened.
I'm seeing it on Cap Friendly. Let me check.
Yeah,
I'll Google. I don't want to speak out of turn.
It's on Cap Friendly. It says unconfirmed contract deals.
They signed him 2 hours ago, according to Chicago Tribune. They placed Hossa on long-term injured reserve, and they signed
Conspiracy.
Yeah, I don't buy that conspiracy. Apparently, he's been dealing with it. I kind of agree with Wyshynski that he was always meant to not play those last few years, but I don't think he's like faking a like skin disorder. I think
Yeah.
I think it became a thing where he was like, all right, I can manage it, but it's super uncomfortable. And at this point, you know, I'm not going to be making a ton of money and it would probably help them. So I'll just sit out. That's what I think happened.
I hear you.
I think the Lupul stuff is a lot more malicious.
Yeah. But listen, they signed Cody Franzen, which helps. But Marcus,
But this blue line is fucking terrible. Part of my language.
This blue line sucks. It is not.
It is bad. It is bad.
Duncan Keith, and then it's a bunch of misfits, basically. I mean, Connor
Seabrook contract might be the worst.
Connor Murphy is, I don't know. He really hasn't done anything. Brent Seabrook obviously is off the cliff already. Michael Kempney, I mean, he's going to be in your top 6. I mean, it's just, maybe Roosevelt comes back. He's injured right now. But, I mean, Michael Roosevelt's 39, turning 40. I mean,
unlike previous years when reports of their demise was exaggerated, this really feels like it's catching up to them.
Yeah, I think it is. Their forward group, they have to rely on some youth. They're hoping Patrick Sharp can bounce back. They're hoping Nick Schmaltz and Ryan Hartman and DeBrincat. I mean, that's, once again, it's kind of like we talked about with some other teams. Like, they're hoping for a lot to go right. I mean, and those contracts. I like the Saad thing. I mean, what is Anisimov going to be? I mean, what is Jonathan Toews going to be? I mean,
Anisimov is an NMC. Like, what?
Yeah, I know. That's a
what
bad
is this team doing?
That's a bad contract. I don't know. I'm not high on Chicago because their blue line's atrocious.
Yeah, I agree. I got them out of the playoffs, which means
I got them out of the playoffs here.
Which means at number 4, you and I both have, I'm assuming, the Winnipeg Jets.
I love the Winnipeg Jets. The Winnipeg Jets, I'm telling you, could finish 2 in this division. No doubt in my mind. Hell, I think they could threaten to win this division. That's how good I think the Winnipeg Jets are going to be. Their forward group is lethal. They're going to be the highest scoring team in the league. I would put money on that if anybody wants to make that bet. Mark Scheifele, Blake Wheeler, Brian Little, Perreault is a great depth player.
So underrated.
And then Patrick Laine, Nikolai Ehlers, who we talked about earlier in the show. I mean, this team is young. They're youthful. They still have a lot of salary cap space. They can make a deal. Their blue line is a little bit lesser than their offensive group, but I still love it with Bufflin.
They did overpay for Kulikov this summer.
They overpaid for Kulikov, but they still got Jacob Trouba back there. I like him. Toby Enstrom has had a decent NHL career. Bufflin, Tyler Myers is depending on where you're going to put him in your lineup.
How is Bufflin still underrated?
I don't know. It just never got – just because he's in Winnipeg. I mean, it's kind of,
But, like, he's easily a top 10 defenseman, and nobody talks about him that way.
I love Bufflin, man. I got him in a couple of fantasy leagues. And then I think they really helped their goaltending situation out. Steve Basin. 2 years, 4.1. Wasn't as good as last year, but he's shown some good. He's had an interesting NHL career to say the least. He wasn't good last year, but he has.
That's the thing holding me back from really being all in on them.
I think he had a really down year last year. But 3 previous years, 917, 928, 918. If you could give him 9, 13, 14, 15 goaltending, Marcus, I think they're going to be plenty fine.
Yeah,
and then you got Connor Hellebuck. So I just think they're going to score so much, and we'll talk about Laine later. And
they're a lot like Dallas.
Very similar to Dallas. I think they're like a younger version of Dallas.
Yeah,
like a younger version of Dallas here. So Jets at 4. I got them in the playoffs.
Yeah, same.
I like the Jets, and I think it'd be good for hockey. The top three, I swear I have flipped these. I was sitting here the whole time. I don't know. I've seen so many different predictions. I'm really not sold on any of them.
Me neither.
I think this could go either way, and it's fine.
Just like I was not sold on Katie Heron being a true member of the Plastics. I'm not sold on any of these teams in the top three.
I agree with that statement. So I don't know. I don't even feel
I got Dallas 3.
I have Minnesota 3.
Okay. I got Dallas 3. I don't love their blue line. I love John Klingberg. I think people are overrating Ben Bishop a little bit. I think he's going to give them a little bit better goaltending than they got last year. I don't think it's going to be much. If they make the playoffs, it's going to be because of Ken Hitchcock, who's a great coach. The additions they made up front, Hansel, so hot right now, Hansel, and Alex Radulov. And Hitchcock's a great coach. He's going to help there. They're going to make the playoffs in the same way they made the playoffs 2 years ago. They're going to be overwhelming teams with their offense. They're going to be scoring a ton of goals. Winnipeg might score the most goals in the league. I don't think Dallas is going to be very far behind.
Dallas will be right there.
I guess I like the Mark Method deal, but again, guys like that just don't age well. And it's like a lot of teams in the West. If this goes their way, if that goes their way, and their big if is their young defenseman.
Oh yeah, for sure. They're relying on some young defensemen who could wheel, who can move the puck. But I mean, that's a lot to ask for. And we know defensemen take longer to develop. It's not. There's no guarantee with a 22, 23-year-old defenseman.
Carolina's abnormal in that sense.
Yeah, but they got guys who already been around a little bit more. Like I like Esa Lindell. I think I've tracked some of his games. I think Julius Honka is gonna get there, but like that's still a lot to ask for both of those guys. So it's both pretty young, and they're pretty much riding on the fact that they're going to step up and be 4 or 5 guys right in that range. It's going to should be interesting for them. But I do like I have Minnesota at 3. And the reason I have Minnesota at 3, Marcus, is I picked them to go to the Stanley Cup last year. I actually might have picked them to win the Cup in the playoffs. I love their roster. I still like it. My issue is, Marcus, they're another year older. The Zach Parise contract is not holding up. I mean, Zach Parise put up 42 points last year. He's dropped 10 points basically each of the last 3 years. I mean, does that steady decline keep happening? Koivu's another year older. Ryan Suter is still very effective, but another year older. We got Jared Spurgeon, and the next 3 guys, Spurgeon, Brodin, and Dumba, I'm a huge fan of those 3. I didn't like the trades they made this summer. Giving up Scandella and Pominville.
Yeah.
They get Tyler Ennis, who had his career worst year, and Marcus Foligno. I mean, a little bit. I think it's more salary cap deals than anything else.
Agreed.
Foligno's a nice little depth player. Ennis is coming off the worst year of his NHL career last year, where he put out 13 points in 51 games. He's been on the decline there. I mean, after being like a 40-point guy there for a while. So I think you got to be worried about them in that aspect. I mean, I still like Minnesota. I love their goaltending and Devin Dubnyk.
I don't love their backup goaltending.
I don't like their backup goaltending. Alex Locke, I agree.
He's a house of cards. I mean, he had a really good year his rookie year in San Jose, but he's just he's probably an AHL goaltender at this point.
And another one. I mean, do you expect Eric Stahl to put up 65 points again? I mean, I don't know about that.
He's still on a great contract, which helps.
Still a great contract. But listen, if Eric Stahl was put up 35 points on that contract, I'd be very pleased. But I don't think he's going to put 60 points again. Still like Charlie Coyle. But I think there's some age there. And I think the biggest problem I have with Minnesota, Marcus, is they're pretty well-rounded, but they don't have one lethal guy on their roster. Mikael Granlund is probably the closest you have to that. And even him, he's more of a playmaker than a goal scorer. I think this could be a team that could really run into some scoring troubles this year. I think it starts with their blue line and their goaltending, which is fine. I like them. I mean, I've seen predictions for them to win the division.
They have maybe the best coach in the NHL, too, in Bruce Boudreau.
Yeah, as far as offense goes, he could probably get the most out of them. So I like Minnesota in that aspect. They could finish 1. Then the next team. So who do you have at 2 then, Marcus?
I've got the Wild at 2.
You have the Wild at 2. Okay, so I have
almost by default.
Yeah, I mean, same thing we just talked. I think they're a top 3 team in this division. I just don't know really where to put them. We talked about Dallas. I have Dallas winning the division.
Okay.
I just like their goal scoring. I'm a huge Sagan and Jamie Benn fan. I mean, those guys are your top 2. I think those your top 2 guys. I think it makes you as lethal as anybody in the league. I mean, it's not quite. And then they have Spets as their third. Their forward group is maybe the deepest in the NHL as far as scoring wise. When you look at they could ride Sagan, Spetzel, and Hansel as their top 3, and then Fosca as your third guy. I mean, they got some guys who can play. So we talked about Dallas and them. So that means you have the Predators win the division.
I do.
I have the Predators at 2. I almost had the Predators at 3. I am worried about this team's ability to score.
As am I.
I think their blue line is lethal. I think if they're smart and really reduce Pekarine's time, almost to the point where UC Saros is playing almost split time, like a 55-35. I
was going to say a 50-30 would be pretty
50-30 split, like in that range, right around there, like in that range. I think that should be it. The blue line is obviously the best in the NHL. Subban, Rose, Josi.
Are they going to split up Subban and Ekholm?
I don't know.
They were talking about it earlier in the year. They were going Josi, Ekholm.
I mean, listen. I mean, I like Subban top pairing, but a Subban against second-tier guys could be freaking lethal.
But Subban and Ekholm were the best shutdown pairing in the league in the playoffs last year. Josi was the guy soaking up the secondary competition. I think Yossi's another guy who I like, but I think is very overrated. He's not the guy who leads that blue line. I think Subban and Ekholm are their 2 best defensemen.
Yeah, it's certainly there, and obviously Josi getting the captaincy this year. They'll rotate a couple other days. But yeah, listen. Here's the thing: Kevin Fiala. What do you expect from him coming back from a leg break? I mean, he had 16 points in 51 games as rookie. I mean, it was okay. Ryan Johansson, as good as a 1A center he is, I mean, he only scored 14 goals last year. He's not a goal scorer. He's a distributor.
Okay, so they're not crazy. They still got Ekholm and Subban together.
Okay, there you go. But who's going to be scoring the goals? Is it Arvidsson? Is it Forsberg? Deep forward group. I like the Scott Hartnell signing.
I do too.
I think it's a nice move going back to Nashville for him. I love Nashville. I think if they're smart with their goaltending situation, they'll be fine. But their scoring ability certainly makes me nervous. They got some cap space. It could be flirting with some teams there. Obviously they signed Nick Bonino. I'm not crazy about that contract. I think
the more I thought about it, the more I think that's an overpayment.
That's an overpayment for a guy who put up 37 points. I mean, I don't know. What are your expectations of Nick Bonino as a Predators fan and a management? I think that's a tough situation for them. I like Nashville. I do. I'm a little hesitant with their ability to score. But maybe if their possession numbers are that good, it's fine. So I have Dallas, Preds, Wilds, Jets, Hawks, Blues, Colorado. You have Preds, Wild, Dallas, right?
Yes, Preds, Wild, Dallas, Jets, Chicago, St. Louis, and then Colorado.
All right. And so given that you took the 4, so you have 4 teams here, so that would put Dallas, Nashville, the Wild, and the Jets in the playoffs.
And the Jets get the first wild card. Sharks are the second wild card.
I think the Sharks flirting with both like the Coyotes, the Blackhawks, and the Kings, so that 5th spot is very plausible. That is that. So there's our division wrap up here. Marcus, why don't we'll just go straight to your conference final match, your final 4 for both sides, and then your Stanley Cup winner. So who do you have coming out? I think let's go back to the Atlantic and Metro.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it's a boring pick. I just don't see the Pens not reaching the conference final.
Yeah, I'd agree.
I'm going to take and then the Lightning at least. I'll probably go Pens Lightning in the conference final. And just to be different, because I think it's so hard to get back to a 3rd Stanley Cup, I think the Lightning go to the Stanley Cup.
I'm going to go – you know what? I'm going to go bold. Division winners, Pens, Leafs. Leafs go to the Cup final.
Fine by me. That's fine. I'd like to see something different. That's cool with me. And then in the West, Marcus, conference final, who do you got?
Like I said, I hate this Pacific Division and trying to pick a team because I think they're all either due for regression or like I'm still gonna go the Ducks. I think they got the best blue line, and I think their forward group is at least on par with Edmonton's. Give me the Ducks out of the rematch. Ducks Preds, chalk. Ducks Preds. I'll see the Preds back in the Cup final.
Yeah, I don't know. Ducks. I flip back and forth between the Ducks. I'm sorry, the Predators.
Jets.
I don't know if I have the balls to pick the Jets to go that far. I think the safe pick is either the Preds, Dallas there. One of those two teams will make it. We'll change it up. I'll say Dallas goes, and I say Ducks. I say Ducks Lightning in the finals. And
I got Preds Leafs. Either way, a nightmare for the NHL executives in terms of
Who you got winning your cup then?
I'll be a sucker for the moment. I'm gonna go with you know what? I'm sticking with it. I picked them last year. I'm going with the Preds. I got the Preds.
Get it done this year. Yeah, I think if I have Ducks Lightning, I think the blue line of the Ducks is much better. I think the forward depth of the Lightning is much better.
As much as the NHL would hate it, that would be a good Cup final matchup.
It would be a good matchup. I think it'd be even. I think John Cooper's a much better coach. I think Vasilevsky is a little I'm going to take the Lightning because I don't want to give any credit to Randy Carlyle.
That's good. That's very
I'll
good.
take Tampa.
I don't want to give any credit either.
Take Tampa. Honestly, yeah, I think it's so tough for the Pens. And if they won the Cup, I know they're the favorite. Just to get back there, it's exhausting. I mean, I think they can do it easily. I just think that's a lot to ask for. So there she is.
I think it's a wide open year, though. Like, I think that's kind of the theme is that this year feels really more so than previous years. It feels wide open.
All right, real quickly, Marcus, we'll get into as we get ready to wrap up here. I know you got places to be and people to see. We'll go into the award predictions here for the NHL as we get into the season here. So we'll go through the major ones. We'll do Norris and Ross and all that stuff here. So Marcus, I'll let you start. Where do you want to start with?
Let's start with the MVP. Let's start with the Hart Trophy. I think it's going to be. I mean, I think it's preordained. I think it's going to be Connor McDavid.
I think when you think about Hart Trophy most valuable to his team, I think McDavid's right there. Quietly. So listen. The finalists are going to be McDavid, Crosby, and enter X, because I don't think the Senators are going to be good. I won't
Carlson
be.
Will not.
He's not going to be in the running there.
He should.
But I'm riding the Winnipeg Jets train.
And my God!
The third guy in there is either going to be Mark Scheifele or Patrick Laine. I haven't decided who it's going to be yet. But I still think McDavid wins the trophy. It's hard to pick against him.
I think Matthews will be third because the Toronto media will just stuff that one.
I know, dude. Winnipeg, go Jets. All right, so we'll go there. So we'll go into what about Norris Trophy, Marcus?
I'm going to go a little off the board here. We think they're going to have a great year. They're primed to make an ascendancy into the league's elite almost. I'm going to go Justin Falk. I think he's the pick. Love the pick.
My
Dark Horse Norris guy.
Dark Horse Norris. I think Dark Horse. I think anybody in Carolina. Or I think Dustin Byfuglien could be up there. I think Carlson, just because the team's not going to be as good, he might not get it this year. And injuries galore. And I think the safe pick for me would be Victor Hedman.
Yeah.
I think if you're going to go
Hedman or Burns, I think is a good pick.
Yeah, either one of those guys is fine by me. I think it's pretty simple.
But I'm going off the board. I'm so in on Carolina. Give me Justin Falk.
That's fine. I love it. Yeah, so we have our teams. We got Carolina and Winnipeg. That's our dream Stanley Cup matchup.
That would the NHL, like, they would like jump out of the building.
And
like,
I'd be flying to Winnipeg and Carolina back and forth to go to the games. I'd be so excited.
Vezina, I got Braden Holtby.
Yeah, I think this year is the year they really need Holtby. You know, they're not as good. Yeah. So I think Holtby steps up there, gets the job done. Yeah, I think Holtby's kind of a shoe-in there. I think dark horse, if you're going to go off the beaten path a little bit, he had a great year last year. It depends on how good they are. Is John Gibson? I think that could be a little bit off the path there. I think Vezina, your team's got to be good and you got to be healthy, and they got a good enough blue line that I think he's going to have a nice season. So I think he could be there. But yeah, I think Holtby is the obvious pick here.
Calder, who you got?
I'm going with Clayton Keller in Arizona. I think him or Charlie McAvoy are the two guys I look at. Keller's got everyone. I mean, they don't shut up about him down there. So he's the guy, and I think McAvoy is, essentially going to be playing top pair in minutes with Chara, it looks like. I mean, that seems like a cool pair. And so those are the two guys I see there as we get into it. We'll move on. So I think Keller's probably a popular opinion pick.
Barzal is my dark horse.
Yeah, that's a good one, depending on how the Islanders turn out. I don't think either Heischer or Patrick will be in the running at all, really. I think Heischer's team is too bad, and I think Patrick doesn't have the role yet, and injuries have been –
I don't even know if Patrick's going to necessarily stay with the Flyers.
I know. He's so many injuries there. We got away from it, though. So NHL, the Art Ross was the leading scorer. Do you think McDavid also gets that? I think that's I think that's McDavid. My favorite pick here, the Rocket Richard. I think Patrick Laine gets it.
Wow.
Yep, dude, I'm all in on the Winnipeg Jets. I think Laine, and then I think somebody in Tampa could flirt with it, whether it's Stamkos or Kucherov, depends on who comes back healthy. It's one of those two guys. One of those guys is going to turn into the go-to. I don't know who it's going to be yet. The Stamkos has been hurt. They really haven't played a ton together when they've been in their full form. So I think one of those two guys are in there too.
I like that. I like that pick a lot. I think I agree with Laine. I'll go Laine too. I think the guy has probably the best shot in the league.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
The guy's gonna perennially shoot like 15 to 20%, and everyone's just gonna be fine with it because he's got that good of a release.
Is the Ted Lindsay any different than is it going to be still Connor McDavid, or is that go to like Crosby just out of us?
Yeah, I think this might be a year we see a little different. Maybe the players get some McDavid fatigue.
Yeah,
and they give it to like Tyler Seguin or Jamie Benn or something.
Yeah, something like that. That's cool.
Who I think are both probably dark horse candidates for MVP.
Yeah, just because I think that team could score a ton. Listen, I'm a huge fan of both of them. I also think they're cool guys. I think they're funny as heck. I like them. The one which I don't really care to pick every year because I know who it's going to be. I think the Selke Trophy, which is just like basically is the Patrice Bergeron Trophy now. I don't know. I think the Selke Trophy is such a it's such a perception pick.
Totally a perception.
Like defensive, it's a defensive forward, but he's also got to score. Like if you're gonna pick defensive forward, then why aren't you picking why isn't I don't know, Brian Boyle won one before? You know what I mean? Like right. You got a defensive forward, but it's whatever. It's Patrice Bergeron and whoever else you want. Jonathan Taylor, Ryan Kessler, they'll all be in the mix. And yeah, great, congratulations. All right, one of my favorites to predict though, Marcus, the PDO award for Coach of the Year.
Yeah. Yes, the PDO award.
They shouldn't be Jack Adams. It should be the team, the PDO award. I think Ken Hitchcock could be in the running with Dallas.
Is this the year that Babcock finally gets it?
I was gonna say, then Babcock's the other guy. I'm gonna pick Babcock only because I just love him so much and he deserves it. So I give it to him. I'm a fan of Babcock's there.
Maybe Bill Peters in Carolina.
Yeah, that's a great pick. I think Bill Peters is a good coach, and I think Carolina could get Bill Peters and Ron Francis could win GM of the year.
Yes. I think Francis could win GM of the year.
Double entendre. All right, Marcus. So that is all of our picks. I missed anything we got called there? Yeah, we got them all down there.
We need one more though. I told you, we talked about it last night. A habanero ghost pepper take. A hot, spicy, I don't want to say nuclear given the tensions in the world, but that level take about the NHL season.
About the NHL season. Wow. I was thinking about the hottest takes. I mean, am I just going to be a jerk or am I just going to be ironic? All these things in the world I'm not really sure about. My hot take.
I got one ready.
All right, go ahead. You go first.
Patrick Kane scores less than a point per game this season.
Yeah, he can score 75 points, like 70 points. That makes sense. How many years has he been above a point per game? A couple in a row now.
Yeah, a lot. So this is a very, very spicy take. Let me look up his stats. Also needs to
you know what? I'm gonna go opposite in this. I got my prediction. I don't know if it's happening now, but screw it. Patrick Laine eclipsed 60 goals.
Okay.
60 to 65.
Kane has not been below a point a game in 5 years. That's
all right.
That's
a good one.
About to change.
Yeah, Patrick Laine
scores 60.
60, over 60.
Okay. Over 60.
Over 60. He's gonna score like 64 goals. That's how lethal Winnipeg is gonna be offensively. They're gonna win so many like 6-3 games. It's gonna be unbelievable. They're gonna score so many goals.
I'm looking up Rocket Richard winners to see the last time someone scored that many goals in an NHL.
I think Stamkos in 11-12. Didn't he have 60 that year?
The last time someone scored 64 or above was Ovechkin in 07-08 when he scored 65.
Give it to me. Hot takes. Patrick Laine, mark it down. 64 goals. Boom. You heard it here. Go Jets.
Yes, Stamkos is the last to score 60. He scored 60 in 2011-12.
Yep, that's it. There it is. Patrick Laine, 64 goals.
If the year he's going to do it is going to be one of these next 2 years. Ovechkin scored 65 when he was 22. Stamkos scored 60.
That's what I'm saying. We see with scores, it's going to be in the next year or two. He's going to have that huge – he's going to go like, in the next 3 years, he'll score something like, 48, 50, 55, like something like that. And then it'll drop down. He'll be consistently 35 to 40. Like that'll be the thing. So if he's going to push it, it's going to be one of these 2 years. I like them. I think they can make a big acquisition somewhere during the season. Yeah, give it to me. 64 goals for Patrick Laine.
I love it. I love it.
Absolutely. I'm all in favor here. Well, Marcus, it is now 1:42 Eastern time, which means 11:42 Pacific. 10:42 Pacific. Excuse me. It's bad math. This NHL season, a couple hours away for both of us. I'm excited. It's nice to have things back. And as angry as I'm going to get at Alain Vigneault at some point for putting Mark Stahl the first pairing and demoting Kevin Shattenkirk down, I'm so glad I'm yelling at Kevin. I'm so glad I'm yelling at Alain Vigneault and not some other things in the world right now. So excited to be back. Our predictions, we'll post this up, obviously, and we'll write out our predictions too. We'll tweet those out. I'll do that for us, Marcus, and we'll be good to go.
Thank you. So hopefully we'll be doing this on a weekly basis, and let's say we'll be back next week to talk about to overreact to the first week of NHL games.
Yog salute.
Yog salute.
End the show.